Are we on? Are we on? Welcome to Basketball Heads Live. I am your host, Glenn Pooh Harding. And oh boy, we have a very special guest. This basketball head is a major player on the New York City basketball scene. He has won championships as a coach on a high school level and spent time as a college coach on the sidelines. Who can forget his almost decade-long position as an NBA scout and community relations director? This basketball head presently is the director of New Heights AAU program and of his own Brooklyn Bridge Basketball Inc., where they emphasize character building skills, education, and basketball. This basketball head was a graduate assistant at Long Island University under legendary New York City coach Raymond Haskins. Then as an assistant coach to another legend in Dwayne Tiny Morton at Abraham Lincoln High School for a year. This basketball head also coached at Benjamin Banneker High School, ultimately landing the varsity head coach role at his alma mater, Bishop Loughlin High School. During this time, this basketball head coaching career, like I said, won multiple championships and developed hundreds of young people as well as multiple college players. This basketball head is also a professor at Long Island University, where he teaches a class on NBA prospects evaluation as well as an introductory coaching course. So, without further ado, help me welcome to the show New Heights director, head coach, entrepreneur, and now author of his new book, Free Game. Welcome to the show, my guy, Khalid Green.
Y'all ready? Yes. You have just stepped out into the world of chaos. Where everybody goes hard. Come on. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Or go home. Never back down. You gotta hold your own. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. East Coast. Go hard. West Coast. Go hard. Midwest. Go hard. Dirty. Hurry up, everybody. Get online, buy your tickets, cause the game about to start.
What's happening?
Peace, Pooh. I love that introduction, man. I felt like I was in the tunnel in the 90s, man.
Word, right? Listen, man, I as I was reading some of your book, I was glancing through it, taking some notes to some things, and man, I can see just like myself, you're a diehard hip hop head, man.
Yeah, diehard, man. Love my hip hop. So whoever did that, man, kudos to them. That's tough right there.
No doubt. Actually, that's me on the intro.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I used to dabble.
I see that.
Yeah.
Much respect.
No doubt, man. I want to say, man, happy Father's Day. And happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, man, for doing a great job out there with your children and with kids in the community, man. So definitely, man.
Yep. Thank you. Same to you, brother.
For sure. I'm representing my guy, Wes Robinson's Hoop One program. Shirt he hooked me up with.
Okay.
Thank you, man. Looks nice, man. Right? It is. And I'm looking through here. I'm seeing these lines on the shirt. I thought something was wrong with the camera, but that's the style, man. That's the style. No doubt. Well, man, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, man. It's an honor to be here, man. Thank you.
Listen, I always tell people, because people think, when they see a guest on the show, they don't know it's been in the works for a while.
Yes. Yeah, we talked about it for a while. and finally we brought it to fruition. So
No
happy about
doubt.
that.
No doubt. Salute to my guy Eric Weaver in the building, always on the check-in from day one. So as we, always do, man, I like to ask everyone when they come on the show, who introduced you to the game?
I have to credit my father, just for putting probably a little ball in my hand and early, and also my mother for being open to that, and being open to me being, a kid that loves sports. She tried to throw everything at me, piano, whatever, but the only thing that I really was drawn to was sports. Basketball, football were pretty much ran hand in hand, but after a while I think I made a business decision not to play football anymore and just play basketball.
Man, rightfully so, rightfully so, man. I saw that as well, man. And back then, we had to play everything because the different season, that's what the kids is doing.
Right.
Football season, kids are playing football, playing baseball,
Right.
stickball, all of those things was our training ground to
Absolutely.
what we, finally wanted to do, and that would be basketball.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
For
loved
sure.
all sports. Growing up, I played baseball, basketball, football, and stickball. So yeah, I had fun with them all.
Wow. What part of Brooklyn you grew up in?
So we lived in Crown Heights. We also lived in Clinton Hill. We also lived in Bed-Stuy. So a little bit of all of that.
Man, you hit them all right there on the head, man.
Yeah.
I lived in two of them, Bed-Stuy and Crown Heights.
Okay.
But definitely, man, you made your rounds, man, to all the spots. That's why I guess you're so well connected.
Yep, absolutely.
No doubt. So when we talk about some of your earliest memories of watching basketball on television, do you remember who was playing?
I do. I was a big fan of Dr. J when he played for the 76ers, and I was a big fan of Isaiah Thomas when he played with the Bad Boys, Detroit Pistons. I probably love Isaiah more than anybody. Growing up, he was a short guard, but he had handles, and my mother's side is all from Chicago, so I related to that because he's from Chicago. So I definitely was a big fan of Isaiah. And when I started working in the NBA, I was like, and I met him for the first time, I was like in awe. I tried to keep my cool, but meeting him was an honor, man. That's when he was working for the Knicks, and I met him for the first time in Las Vegas.
Yo, when I tell kids, not is that the same exact way when they talk about Kyrie, and I was like, yo, there was this kid named Isaiah Thomas that was, he would throw between his legs, he would do the bop, right? Crossover.
Right.
There's no another Kyrie or Isaiah Thomas or Allen Iverson. They're definitely one of ones, but we definitely saw it before in some kind of way.
Absolutely.
With Zeke,
Yep.
Being a guard that can make sure his players get better by getting them the ball in the right places, and also being able to score big time points.
Yes.
Like him scoring all them points in that one leg. Remember?
That's one of the most legendary games. I was about to bring that up myself on that ankle or whatever it was, man. He was limping all over and getting about 50 points. So yeah, that's the definition of toughness right there.
That's right. And I think Dr. J, he was such a great role model for us kids coming up. Someone that he dressed well, spoke well, and he treated people nice. And he also was an awesome talent.
And a New Yorker.
That's right.
Long Island.
That's right. Listen, we always get flack, right? Because everybody around the world, they compare their whole state to our city. They don't really give us the whole state. They don't really talk about the whole state, not realize that there's a lot going on in Long Island and upstate New York.
Absolutely. I was at the 2 weeks ago, I was at the Advancement in Blacks in Sports weekend, Legends Weekend. And one of my OGs is Gary Charles. And it just blew my mind that in this little radius in Roosevelt, Long Island, all at the same time, he grew up with Dr. J, Chuck D, a Public Enemy,
Right, right.
and Eddie Murphy, all came from that town. So, New York has produced a lot of talent, whether it be basketball, hip hop, entertainment. New York is still, to me, number one.
That's right. Still a Mecca. Don't forget
Still the
that,
Mecca.
y'all.
Don't get
That's
it
right.
twisted.
That's right. All the way through. Who was the best player in the neighborhood that everyone looked up to when you was coming up? And you lived in 3 different places, man. So you may have to expand on us a little bit.
Yeah, well, when I don't like, there's brothers that were just nice in my neighborhood, but I know in that era in New York City, the nicest hands down was Kenny Anderson, the left hand villain from Malloy. Like I mean he he was pulling up, on the break on the fast break, shooting the 3 way before Steph Curry and all of them. Like he did that and then got to the basket whenever he wanted. He was pretty much the first time I really realized that this kid is a superstar. Like the thing that I never forget being at Bishop Loughlin. I'm a little younger than him, but they made an announcement on our speakers, and the lady stated, yeah, come to the game tonight. Kenny Anderson and the Malloy Stanners will be here playing against our Bishop Loughlin Lions. And I was like, wow. Like his name took precedence over the high school. So that blew my mind. I never forget that.
I have a problem mentioning that as well. I do that. When someone asks me about our, city championship run and us getting to the state championship, I always say, we beat Kenny Anderson and below.
Right. Because that puts a different type of credibility on
it. Right. Oh man, that's so real. That's so real. We can't help it, Kate. And salute to Loughlin High School. Such a great high school.
Yep.
Yeah. So tell me about this champions program, right? Was it champions, right?
Yes. So
champions program that your mom put you in, and how did it help shape you as a teen?
Yeah. So so at one point my mother and I lived in Manhattan, and she put me on. She involved me with a program called Champions, and the greatest thing about that program was that they had every sport. So they had, like we talked about earlier, they had seasonal sports. They had baseball, basketball, and football. So it allowed me, it gave me a structure where I never had to go outside of the program to do anything because it was already built in the cake of the program. And we competed like against in basketball, baseball, and football, and it was just something that like kept my mind stimulated. My mother kept the academics carried over my head, told me, make sure that homework is done and all that is done, and that once that held me accountable to play the sport and not ever fell off. So I don't even think they exist anymore, but that was like a big deal for me growing up in New York City, having the chance to play all sports in one program.
And then you became a Chose, right? Like,
well, no.
Are you part of this family?
No. So we played against the Chose.
Okay.
And they, typical Chose and typical AAU. Oh, the one kid that stands out on the bad team that we just probably smoked, he might have got 15 points or something. They stepped to my father. The coach, hollered at my father, told me to come down. But my father was a little leery about it, so I never ended up playing for the Chose. But they were definitely a dominant program in the city at that time, and still have a lot of respect from me.
Yeah, they've been around since 1967. For those
which
of
is
you
unbelievable.
That know. That's crazy, right?
Unbelievable. Yeah,
that is crazy. As a youngster, how was your time at Loughlin when you was a student there, and how was that transition for you?
It Loughlin was one. it's known for the young ladies, you know, so it was a co-ed school, all pretty much predominantly black. Um, and I still have like some of my best friends I met at Loughlin still to this day. I talk to them like almost every other day. And during that era, um, Sherwin Anderson was a star coming up. Sheldon Jefferson. Um, I played freshman ball. I played JV ball, and I was a role player on the varsity for my junior year. So, and that year on my junior year, we got knocked out in the semifinals or the quarterfinals. I forget which one against Jamal Mashburn.
Ooh.
Yeah, when he was at, you know, obviously Cardinal Hayes before they went. A lot of people don't know they went down to the B after he left, and then obviously they're back in the Double A. But yeah,
I didn't know that. Was it that 1990 year?
I think so. I get my years messed up, but
Yeah, because I know, you know, I had Rob Phelps on here, I had Ephraim Whitehead, I had Mo Brown, all from that year, and they talk about that being the best high school class coming out of New York City because of so many McDonald's All-Americans, and for the fact that Mr. Basketball for New York State, which was Jamal Mashburn, he didn't even make the McDonald's All-American game.
right, ain't
Neither
that
did
something?
Rob Phelps. So
Yeah,
that's just crazy.
and Rob and it's ironic because I just saw Rob the other day. Rob was a straight killer.
Yes.
That's when Nazareth was in the Double A. Now that obviously they're back in the Double A with Coach Gary Irvin.
Yeah.
So I'm happy. I'm definitely happy about that. It's going to bring back a nice rivalry between between Bishop Loughlin and Nazareth. But no, those were some heavy days, man. Rob used to come and try to get 30 a night on everybody.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
He definitely put up those numbers, man. I think he's number 15 for New York State all-time scorer.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of Nazareth, oh man, Gary Irvin is building something special over there.
Oh man,
I'm talking about for years to come.
Oh no. G is not playing any games. We're on the same staff on my EYBL head. I'm the EYBL head coach, and he's like the associate head coach. He's like he knows his thing. And the one thing about G, he's passionate. He's outside. He's competitive. He has the same passion that he has as a player that he has as a coach. So I think he's gonna be. I think it's going to be scary hours in the Catholic League messing with Coach Irvin in Nazareth, for real.
Oh yeah, for sure. What was one game that kind of stuck out to you during your high school years that let you know that New York City basketball is definitely one of the best places to play in the whole world?
Probably that game where we got knocked out against Mashburn. Because one thing I remember, and anybody that was on the Loughlin team would testify to this, he felt like I think it was like a close game, and he fell down at, I believe it was like the 3-point line, and then like put the ball between his legs and shot a 3 or something like that, and pretty much knocked us out of the semifinals. And I never I'm like, that's not supposed to be possible, you know.
Hold on. Time out. Time out. First check of the night. Hold on. Walk me through that again. Was this the last second shot?
No, I don't know. It wasn't the last second shot, but it was like down the stretch of a game.
Got
and
you.
The game was in flux, and all I remember is him falling down and him putting the ball between his legs, coming back up and shooting a 3 or a long 2, you know, and you know, basically that was like the dagger. And I wish Instagram or social media was around because they still be playing this to this day. But
wow.
No, just seeing guys like Mashburn and Kenny and Red, who's now the head coach at Syracuse, and Derek Phelps and Khalid Reeves. Like there was so many, you know, Brian Reese. There was so many brothers that were so nice during that era that, you know, it was an honor to just, you know, be able to compete and play against them in different tournaments or whatever. So, yeah.
What attracted you to Morehouse, and what kind of impact did it have in your life?
So Quite honestly, I did not want to go to Morehouse.
Mm.
I did like that was not my first choice. My mother. So this was the year. This is when Different World was on TV.
Yes, yes,
and,
yes.
and I have a very like my mother was very strict. She didn't want me watching just too much foolishness on the TV. So like she regulated me to a different world, Bill Cosby at the time, and some other TV shows. But I really loved Different World amongst everything because of the ambiance, the young ladies that they showed, Jasmine Guy, and all of those characters that were on the TV show. So my mother. And my dad, they took my family. When I say my family, my cousins and one of my best friends on a college tour, a black college tour. We rented a minivan and we went like to Virginia State, Virginia Union, Hampton. But the whole time, my mother was like, I really want you to go to Morehouse. And I'm like, I'm not going to an all male school, man. That's not. I'm just not. I'm not going.
I've been watching A Different World. It's not the
Yeah,
same.
yeah. I'm not doing that, man. I kept on telling her, man, there's no way. And then you know, you do the math. I call it supreme math now, but we did the math when we got down there, and it was like 13-1. And I was like, Ma, I understand.
That's right. That's right.
I have no problem now. Yeah, but no, it definitely Morehouse has a great tradition. Some legends came out of there. Spike Lee, obviously, Dr. Martin Luther King. I think Samuel Jackson. So there's so many brothers that have come out of that institution, and they do teach. When I was there, they teach black manhood, which is very important. And that's nothing that I had to learn because I learned that from the elders that were around me, including my grandfathers and my father. But they did reinforce some of the values that I learned from them.
What can we do to send more of our kids to those black universities and colleges through the sports and academics? Like, what can we do to kind of stir them in that direction?
Well, I have this conversation with a lot of brothers on a regular basis. Like, if it was up to me, all black players would go to black colleges, and go to black head coaches. That's just me. But the problem is, our institutions. When you're talking about a kid that's a 5-star kid, he wants 5-star amenities, everything, and he's right about that. Like the parents are right about that. That's what they should expect. And unfortunately, at the black institutions, we're lacking that. One thing that integration a negative of integration, in my opinion, is that it drained the resources from our community. And what happened is the institutions that gained the most from it are the white institutions. So they took our players, they took our resources or our gold and diamond players out of our neighborhoods, and they play for them, play for these institutions, and these institutions are reaping all the benefits. And we're not reaping too many benefits in the black institutions, and that's something that I think is a sin. And I wish that we could change it. I think one of the biggest things that could change, or the mindset of like NBA players, if they would give some money back to black institutions, then our resources that they have there would grow, or some of our entertainers.
That's one thing that I always talk about, because I had a chance to go to a HBCU, but different mindset. This is before Different World. This is before Bill Cosby on television, and we kind of look down at the HBCUs for some reason or another, especially the basketball programs. And I never forget the Hampton coach reaching out to me, and like he really, really, really wanted me to be there. You get what I'm saying? And I tell kids, sometimes it's good to go to places that really want you.
Yes.
And really want you as a person, athlete, a student athlete,
Yeah.
than sometime where everybody thinks we should go.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
definitely gets caught up in that, man, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So you're a kid from New York, moved down to Atlanta. Things is different. You're getting to spread your wings a little bit, away from mom and dad. How does life treat you and prepare you for the world once you start to make that track back to New York?
You know what? I took a lot of wrong turns when I was in Atlanta, and a lot of it is because of the choices I made. Like I'll talk about it in my book. Like I was a
Yep.
heavy drinker. When I was
Hennessy,
in
right?
Atlanta. Yeah, the partying. I did a lot of partying. I was hitting whether it went from Mad Dog 2020 to E and J, Easy to See Jesus, E and J, and 40 ounce, whatever. I was in the party world. I was drinking a lot, and it really became a deterrent in my life. So one of the things I had to do, and I didn't do it down there, but I did it like when I was in New York. I had to make some decisions. I had to make, I came to a crossroads. I actually went to a rehab, and I checked myself into a rehab. My cousin, he went in before me. He was an inspiration. And when I saw how he came out and he was highly respected by my family and people around us, I wanted some of that light that he had. So that was what I decided to do, and I've stayed with that mindset for a long time. It's just being sober. And that's one of the most important things I've done, and it really opened up my world to be a better person and to be more hold myself accountable and show up for myself and others.
Now that's real, man. That's
Yeah,
very commendable of you, man. Very commendable of you, man.
thank you.
For sure, for sure, for sure. Trevor Davis, Khalid came a long way. Proud of you. Pretty good Loughlin team. Was just too small. One Ty Boogie at high school transfer.
My man, Boogie Ty.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's dope. That's
Ty,
dope.
peace, Ty.
That's right. That's right. Um, so you got your act together, mentally and physically, and then you went to Long Island University to get your master's, right?
Yeah, so my father grew up with Coach Haskins on Madison Street here in Bed-Stuy. And Coach offered me the opportunity to join his bench, and I was just a sponge. Like I was like it was a natural high being around Coach for those 2 years. He could tell you, like, I had a little notepad every single practice and everything every drill, every uh offensive play, defensive play. I knew, after writing them down. And I remember one time, I don't know if Coach remembers this, but it was the biggest honor when he told Coach Julius Allen, who was on the bench with us. He said, if one of us gets kicked out, I know Coach Green could run this whole thing because he knows all the plays. So and he was right. I studied Coach, and it was an honor, learning under his tutelage, and I still am honored to have worked for him.
Man, he is such an inspiration, definitely a mentor of mine. And as I always say, he's the godfather of the show, because any information that I need to know, I could just tap it on Coach. And I present it on here, and people think I'm a genius. But,
Yeah,
hey, I like to
absolutely.
thank Coach, man, for sure, for everything.
Yep.
Now, that's dope. That's dope. when you talk about, you watching Coach Haskins and taking notes, who are some of the players that y'all had during that time?
Oh, so we had starting off, obviously, Charles Jones, who's doing a great job at LIU right now. We had Richie Parker, we had Mike Campbell. So that was the three horsemen. And that first year we went to the NCAA and got knocked out in the first round by Tim Thomas of Villanova.
Tough.
And yeah, tough. And then the second year, we lost in the NEC championship and to, I believe, Fairleigh Dickinson, and we lost again in the first round of the NIT to Dayton, I believe, on the road. So that was my experience, and those were the three horsemen that led us,
For
in those
sure,
2
for
years.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm a graduate of Fairleigh Dickinson. I
Okay.
played there as well. Yeah, yeah. LIU's always been tough.
Yeah.
For sure, for
Yep.
sure.
Coach Rod Strickland's gonna and Mo Hicks, they're gonna bring it back.
Hey, listen, right? No better, right? And Charles Jones came
Yeah,
back
and
home,
Charles,
right?
DJ, absolutely. I'm rooting for them. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the three horsemen that's gonna pull them through
That's
this
right.
time.
That's right.
For sure. For sure. Making New York City look good on that one. And they got some really good New York City recruits coming in too.
They
And
do.
Eric Acker, yep,
Yep.
and
Yep.
Trey Shep.
Yep. Trey Ship, both from Eagle brother.
Yep,
Yep.
yep. How did you hook up with Tiny over at Abraham Lincoln? Was that like your second coaching stint? Was that like your second move after
No, I was at Banneker, and then I met Tiny at 5-Star basketball camp. We were both coaching, and we were both counselors at that time. And I had my program, Brooklyn Bridge. We were making a lot of noise on my side of Brooklyn. We had at that time Ramel Bradley, who went to Kentucky eventually. We had Karan Clark, who went to the University of Miami. And we had Jamal Dart. He went to Northwestern, I think, down the road. So we had a nice core of kids that we were, coaching and building up. And obviously he had the general at that time, Sebastian Telfair. So Tiny, being an independent mind thinking person, we cut our own deal. He said, listen, man, I think I could get an Adidas deal if you want to roll with me. And I knew I had to make a decision because these kids were 8th grade, and sooner or later somebody was going to swoop down and take them. So I had to make a chess move. So I made it with Tiny, and I never regretted that. We had a great run with Juice All Stars, and we were the first group of Juice All Stars. And after that, I became an assistant at Lincoln and was assistant coach that won the first PSAL championship of Tiny's career. And that's when Sebastian obviously was a sophomore.
Man, so much history, man.
Yep.
When you think about all this history and all the work that coaches put through to get to those places, you've laid some solid ground in some great places.
Yeah. I've been honored to be, like, I consider Tiny a legend as well, So I've been,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. And I learned a lot from that brother too. And I'm just honored that I coach with these brothers and learn so much. And, when I coach, add on, from what I've learned and add my own flavor to it.
Yeah, when they talk about high school coaches in New York City, definitely got to bring Tiny name up in the conversation for all the things he have accomplished. So, salutes, my former teammate Dwayne Tiny Moore.
Yeah.
So when we talking about, you being under the tutelage of Ray Haskins and then doing your own thing and then kind of get with Tiny, how did those things kind of shape you until the coach you became later on?
Well, I think the thing I learned most with Tiny in particular was the grassroots side. Just learning, how that thing moves. I think I learned a lot by being with Sebastian those couple of years because so much was thrown at him. He was a prodigy, and I learned a lot about the business side. And I credit that experience from that. From LIU, I think like I said, I still to this day run some of the same plays that I got from Coach, during those years, and they still work to this day. So, and from both of them, I think the one thing that's unique about Coach Haskins and Coach Tiny, and I think that I have myself, we're all good at motivating, young men, and bringing the best out of them. And I think that's something that I'm really good at, and pushing kids past their comfort zone. But I also add a unique element where I also teach them, not saying Tiny and Coach Haskins didn't, but in my own way, I teach them about life off the court as well, which I think is the most important thing, because I want them to win off the court more than anything. And and I think you can do both, and I think it's necessary to do both as a coach.
Most definitely. You know, when I look at some of the things you have accomplished, I think of another coach out there, in Kamani Young,
Yes.
right? And all the things he was able to accomplish before he got to the stage he's on right now and being a national champion. Both y'all resumes are impeccable, man.
Yeah, shout out to Kamani. It's beautiful to see a brother. I'm a black man that always roots for my brothers.
Yes, yes.
That's just me. I root
Yep.
for my brothers because I know so many don't root against us. So
Facts.
when I saw him, become a champion, I was proud. Just like I'm so proud of a player that I used to coach. That's the new head coach of Villanova, Kyle Neptune. So
Yep.
I'm always rooting for my own, but I always root for brothers from afar as well. So yeah, Kamani's doing a great job, and he should be the next head coach up somewhere on the East Coast, hopefully.
Facts, man.
R.I.P. Buddha, right. That's a name I haven't heard in a while, man.
Facts.
R.I.P. Buddha.
Right. Definitely rest in peace. Definitely rest in peace.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, it's a lot of people we lost in the last few years. One of the reasons why I started this show, because we started losing a lot of New York City greats that wouldn't be here to tell their story.
Right.
And kind of surprised that no one was recording it anyway. But the fact that these guys didn't get a chance to tell their story, I was like, damn, we all the same age. That could have been me.
Absolutely.
So definitely salute to all our fallen soldiers.
Indeed.
Yeah. Another thing I read in your book, you talk about a problem that you had with one of your parents, and let's just talk about that. And first of all, what inspired you to write the book, and then we can go into that.
What inspired? Well, first of all, I wrote the book over the pandemic, the height of the pandemic, and when I looked at the pandemic, I said I wanted to come out of there with something tangible. One, of course, I wanted to be alive, but I didn't want to be overweight, and I wanted to write a book. So those were my two goals. And pretty much writing a book probably was harder than staying in shape, to be honest with you. And what inspired me overall was the fact that there's been so many parents over the years that have asked me the same questions over and over, and they seem to not be getting the answers, the correct answers, the truthful answers, and they certainly don't have any solutions, a lot of them. So I said, let me drop some real jewels. I've been in, I know there's so much that they don't know about that I've seen behind the scenes that I want to expose, so they can be empowered to make the proper moves in this game. I don't like seeing Black parents in particular being used or being exploited, and I certainly don't like seeing our kids being exploited. So this was my way of giving back in book form, so I can almost present this book like a manual, step by step. However they want to, they can skip over chapters. One chapter might not be relevant to them, but there might be a chapter that is relevant. It could be one of the chapters that pertains to careers in sports, finding a trainer, choosing a high school, dealing with mental health, whatever it is. I know there's something in the book that will speak to them, and that's why I wrote the book. And again, I wanted to empower our people in particular.
I read somewhere where you talked about Tamir Rice also being an inspiration.
Yes. So Tamir Rice was, I'm one of those. I grew up in an activist family, so my father and my mother, they've had affiliations with people like Betty Shabazz. People that you pretty much, a lot of people read about. I've spent intimate time with. Daruba Ben Wahad, who's a Black Panther, political prisoners. So this is my family. This is my lineage. So we've been through the protests. We've done all types of boycotts. And after a while, when I saw Tamir Rice, who looked like some of the kids that I used to coach, it really broke me down. Like I was not really sad, but I was pissed. Like I was really angry that this young little boy who was playing with a play gun by himself just didn't have just was killed by police in a matter of, I think, 2 seconds or less. And when I looked at his face, he looked just like any other brother that I used to coach. So I didn't want to protest. I didn't want to boycott. I wanted to be more proactive. At that time, I was a scout, and I probably had I was still connected to the community, but not as connected as I was when I was a high school coach. So it was almost my way of getting reconnected to my community, and it gave me a sense of purpose to go back and start, empowering and building up young Black boys and giving them the love that they deserve. So, every time I'm in the space with young Black boys, I have Tamir Rice and others, Emmett Till and others on the back of my mind, because I know it's bigger than basketball. And that's what I'm about.
Man, definitely well spoken. Let's talk about that situation now with the parent. That maybe another reason to prompt you to write this book, right?
Yeah.
To give
Yes.
All this free game.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm not gonna name the parent, but so there was an incident when I was coaching. Yeah, here's the book. Go get it, Amazon.
There you go.
There was an incident in when I was coaching at Bishop Loughlin where I got into a confrontation with a particular parent. I was in the classroom space talking to the kids. I think we've been on like a two or three game losing streak, and it was time to galvanize our mindset as a group. And the parent in particular was being really abrasive, kept on knocking on the door of the classroom and being disrespectful. And at that point, I lost it. I came out and I started I went into savage like what the F are you knocking on the door for? I really wanted to put my hands on them to keep it real.
Right.
And it was a big thing at that time. But it really let me know that it needs to be first of all, I'm 50 years old now, so I wouldn't handle the situation the same way. But what it taught me is that one, parents and coaches need to have a healthy respect for each other, and then definitely there need to be boundaries set between player, coach, player, and parent and coach, and parent and player. And obviously those at that time, those boundaries were not met. They were crossed over, and that's where the confrontation took place. Since then, I haven't seen that parent in a long time, but my dealings with parents have been a lot different because one, I try to be as proactive as possible, but also I think my credibility sometimes speaks for itself. When you're a younger coach, seems like they test you a lot. They're gonna test you regardless,
right?
But there is a difference in how they deal with me now than how they dealt with me when I was still trying to prove myself as a young coach.
What comes to mind is the Todd Miles situation, and I heard he just got cleared of everything recently, man. So salute to Todd Miles.
Oh, salute to Todd. And I just saw him. I would say a few months ago. Yeah. So salute to Todd.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's my mama. Hey, mama.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Love you, mama. Thank you.
Salute. Yes. Salute. Yes, indeed. Yep. Man. This is awesome. Thank you, Mom. That means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. You always represent very well. Yeah. So let's go into uh another part, right? We talk about another part of your life, um, when you're kind of helping turn boys to men. Like we talk about your pedigree and your family and what you come from, and how much community means to you.
Yes.
Um, some of the things that you're still instilling into the kids through your AAU program, as well as your Brooklyn Bridge program.
Yeah. One thing that I'm big on is again, everything with me is about holding myself accountable and holding the children or the young men accountable. So um one thing they laugh at, I tell them all the time, and matter of fact, in a few weeks they owe me 17 because I tell them don't use the N-word, because I feel like that's a sign of disrespect towards our own people.
Right.
um I teach them to be punctual. So there was one thing I learned from Morehouse. They said if you are on time, then you're late. So I always try to show and prove by being on time myself, and making sure that I teach them the same thing. So they know, like, little things like when we're in EYBL or the Peach Jam, if I say we need to be downstairs by 8 o'clock in the lobby, they know to be downstairs at 7:50 or 7:55 the latest. Never want your coach waiting on you. So I'm old school to that. I want our kids to be young men, be respectful of each other, um, and I'm big on teaching brotherhood. Brotherhood is more important than teaching anything about anything else to me. So I teach them how to conduct themselves, but also spread love within each other, within their own circle. Um, I learned from there's a thing that Dean Smith used to do. I read his book, something simple, where if somebody gives you an assist on the court, just point at them. So yeah,
Learned that a long time ago.
yeah,
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 that's it.
yeah.
Yep,
So,
yep.
so those things are contagious within a brotherhood. Even on the group chat this week, a couple of my guys got MVPs. One got MVP at the game the other day.
Yep, yep.
And Mel got MVP today at the top elite camp. So on the group chat, I make sure I let them know, yo, great job. And I see, and I'm happy and I'm proud when they also, as teammates, tell each other, yo, good job. And it looks like, and those things look small, but we grow up where we're taught to envy and be jealous of each other as black men. And that's the way of the enemy teaching us to divide, teaching how to divide and conquer ourselves. So I believe in unity, and I just believe that brotherhood comes with that, and I'm big on that.
And without um going too deep into the situation, but I think when you have a relationship with kids, because that before you could teach them anything, before you could kind of correct them, before you could do any kind of discipline, you need to kind of get to know the kid, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We can't give kids ultimatums or attitude or be mean to them, and we don't have a relationship with them.
Absolutely.
So I'm very, very, very big on that, and I think that comes before anything. Before you start to discipline the kid, kind of understand them, and let them understand where you're coming from before any of those actions take place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to build relationships off the court with them, and spending time with them off the court is very important, because you get to hear their concerns and you really get to see who they are when they're not in that basketball culture. So that's very important. Definitely.
When you got to your alma mater, you just didn't show up, man. You went after some chips, man. What did you like? All the things that you accomplished, and all the kids that you helped during your time as freshman coach, and then moving on to varsity, doing some major things there. How was that experience for you?
Oh, it was a ball. It was great. You know, I was able to, in 5 years, bring in 3 high school All-Americans: Devin
Mm,
Ebanks, Javon Pinkston, Deron Lamb. We shook up the world trying to get Lance Stevenson. That didn't happen, but
I
it,
remember that. I remember that.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
remember that. Yeah.
it was certainly worth it for me. I would do it again. We were just trying to put Bishop Loughlin on that national map. We won. We won we won Brooklyn Queens Championship our last year. We made it to the semifinals 2 out of the 5 years. Made it to 3 Brooklyn Queens championships in 5 years. The only thing left we didn't get was that city championship. But I know we were on the verge of it with the way we were recruiting. I had great staff with Coach Rame Anderson, who I work with now at New Heights, and Rudy King was on the staff. Coach Reese, who's now at Nazareth. So we had a very good staff. And one thing about us, we would be in the projects. We would be wherever there was basketball, we would be, because we were connected with the people. So we knew how to get on the couches, talk to the mamas and the grandmamas and the nieces and the aunts, and get us some players. So it was fun. I still think the Catholic League is one of the best in the country. And one thing that you had to do as a coach in that league, you had to be prepared. I don't care who you were playing; those coaches come prepared to play you, and you have to be on top of your X's and O's and know what you're doing. So my game was raised in that league, and I appreciated being a coach in that league.
And oh boy, it showed the other night. Catholic school put it on a PSCL, some awful, man.
Yeah.
And you know, both teams, both Catholic school teams, I think maybe had like 7 or 8 players, and the PSCL scores was, they was filled to the max. And the one thing I appreciate about first of all, the first game was just a blowout, and they started 2 freshmen, from Malloy, which is just crazy to me.
Right.
But then the second game, the PSL was winning most of the game, and what I was so impressed about the Catholic school kids is them chipping away at the league without taking those 3-point shots to try to hit the home run. Right? They was diamond on the 2. If they got an open 3, they would take it. But for the most part, steals, playing defense,
right,
and chopping down those 2s and hitting those foul shots to get them back in the league. And man, salute to Catholic school kids, man, for pulling out 2-0 lead against the public school league. And hopefully next year we can do something a little bit different to bring those kids back together, because I'm got coaches that hit me up already saying, "Yo, Pooh, we want rematch next year."
As they should.
Right, for sure. That definitely, man. When did the NBA come knocking at your door, and how did the opportunity change the trajectory of your basketball life?
Yeah, so when I was able to coach at ABCD camp that Sonny Vaccaro ran at the time, I was able to work besides NBA scouts, because the way the camp was structured, they had the head coach of each camp team was a scout from the NBA, and the high school coach was his assistant. So I was an assistant to an NBA scout. So I would pull them to the side, and ask them what they do, because I really wasn't really, I was kind of clueless on what a scout really does. So I was just asking questions, and they were telling me, basically they go around, 3 or 4 times a week, different regions, and they look at talent. And so automatically I was intrigued by that. I wanted to, it created a spark in my mind, and I wanted to do it. The opportunity came about when the Nets were moving to Brooklyn. And at first they moved to, before they moved to Brooklyn, they were still in New Jersey. And the blessing at that time, my father was a state assemblyman, and they moved to his district. So he knew the owner, but the owner plugged me with who was the general manager at the time. I believe it was Ed Stefanski. He was the general manager. So I told them that I wanted the opportunity. So I got an opportunity to be a consultant first, where they just asked me about upcoming high school players while I was still the head coach of Bishop Loughlin.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually I ended up telling them I wanted to do more. So I started telling them, listen, if you just give me a credential, I'll pay my way to go to different, different events. So I paid my way to go to Orlando uh, uh, Combine, because but now it's in Chicago, but it was in Orlando at the time.
Yep.
And there was other events that I literally paid my own money to, made some sandwiches and just rolled out. And they started affording me the credentials. And then sooner or later, they made me an offer to be a part-time scout. No benefits, but I took it. I took advantage of it. And, I went hard with it. I remember going to Boston. I didn't have any hotel or anything. I just went to Boston and came back the same night. I watched one game, came back like 2:30 in the morning. And, that's pretty much how this thing started rolling. They saw my work ethic. They saw what I brought to the table. And I started growing in the position, and sooner or later they made me an offer to become a full-time scout, and I did that for 9 years. So I worked for Ed Stefanski, Kiki Vandeweghe, Rod Thorne, Billy King, and the general manager now is the one they have now. I forgot his name. But I worked for about 4 or 5 general managers, and it was a great experience, and I learned a lot. Had some great relationships with guys like Popeye Jones, who's on the bench of Denver. He just won a
Yep.
championship. I
Yep.
saw Mario Ellie the other day. He was on the staff with me when he worked with Avery Johnson. So the amount of people that I've learned to call my brothers in the game, it just it's priceless. So I learned so much, and I'm grateful that I had that experience.
I figured out who is general manager, but I'm gonna let Mom let you know, because
Oh,
Mom's
Sean Mark, Sean
yeah,
Mark, Sean Mark,
she's
Sean
on
Mark,
point. She's
Sean
on
Marks,
point.
right?
Salute to Mom Dukes. That's right.
Yeah,
She's on
yeah,
point. She's on
right.
point. Yeah, yeah. Man, that's so incredible, man. When you think about all the places that you was building that foundation, that basketball foundation, to get to some of the highest levels, where some coaches dream of being, and just regular people who want to be on the inside of that fast-paced NBA lifestyle that only dreams can be made of.
Yes, yes,
That's right.
yes,
So you got, and that's a good thing for youngsters, right? Because you sacrifice a lot. You sacrifice a lot to get to that position. A lot of people just want to hand it to them, but they don't understand the work that it takes to be a part of those exclusive clubs.
yeah. There are so many. There are not that many jobs in the NBA, and the one thing I learned about being in the NBA is that the demographic that's on the floor that's playing does not look like the demographic that's behind the scenes.
That's right. Say it again. Say it again, fam.
Right.
So they need to
So the
understand that.
demographic, the racial demographic I'm specifically speaking about on the floor, the Steph Currys, the LeBron James, the Kyrie Irvings, those are the brothers. That's not what it looks like behind the scenes. The majority of the people behind the scenes don't look like that. They are Caucasians, there's some Jews, but they're definitely not that many black people in power. In fact, I think there should be way more black people in power based on the demographic. I mentioned in my book, if hockey had a whole lot of black people on the back end, or on the staff or in the administration, and all the players were white, people would think that it didn't look right. That's how it looks in the NBA.
That's real, man. Or if they will allow black hockey players to fight the way,
Oh, that's a whole different.
right?
Yeah.
And then people don't understand, when we talk about the history of hockey, black guys invented that up in Canada, and they was doing that for a very long time, and then
Yes.
right, then
Yes.
things kind of changed.
Absolutely.
Look, another reason why I create this show, because I remember watching Lamar Odom, New York City legend, on Drink Champs, and they never talked about basketball, right? They never talked about basketball. They was talked about all the other things except basketball, and I just knew that we needed a safe space for New York City basketball players, definitely from an iconic city and being a mecca, so they can have a safe place to come in and tell their story.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
man, and you just another person who came on the show, but man, you're not just another person, because you're such a mover, a shaker of the culture.
Yes, I appreciate that.
For sure.
Thank you. But again, it is a blessing to be on your show and to have a brother that's part of the trenches. Like, I knew you from Basketball Heads, but I didn't even know you ran Breeboard. So I have so much respect for you, because I know you're not just running Breeboard to be, you're not getting a whole bunch of money from Breeboard. You're running it because you're trying to empower your community, and you're doing right by your community. So, brothers like you don't get enough accolades and enough respect from our own community. So I just want to make sure I give you that right here on your own show.
Thank you, man. It's been a blessing to work with such a group of people that have the same mission and have the same willing to work and do things that's going to provide a positive outlook and great playing environment for our children that's coming up, because it was done for us.
And it's blowing up.
Thank you, man.
The streets are talking. It's blowing up, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Definitely back strong, man. We come from a great history that was laid out before us, and we just want to keep that going. And I think there's a reason why the Most High brought me back to New York City to do the work that needs to be done, because it's like to be of service, right?
Yes.
Because no matter what you do, you want to be service to people, especially your people that look like you, and let them know there are other things we could do outside of being on the court.
Absolutely.
So when I interview some of these young men and talk to some of these high school players, I want to give them the opportunity to be in front of a microphone, because soon they will, right? This is media training. And then hopefully they reach the level in a career where they can come on the show and actually tell their story. It just makes everything goes full circle.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. All Black, appreciate you.
All Black.
Yeah. Thank you. Come on, man. Salute to man Adams and everything he's trying to do for the city. Look, it's a tough job. It's a tough job, no matter what position you have, being at the helm. The job that you have to do, being in the NBA, being a head coach, being in AAU. It's tough all over when you're a Black man. You know what I mean? So
yes.
Definitely. Yes. And a Black woman in this world, for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. So I read that your scouting techniques, and I want to give it all away, but let's just talk about one thing that kind of stuck out to me, right? You talked about athleticism, right?
Yes.
And I want to bring up two men right now that we have in New York City, Boogie Flan and Ian Jackson. Yes. When you're looking at these two guys, what do you see as far as how their talent translates to the next level?
Yeah, that's a great question. Boogie has great size for his position. I would say good size for his position. He's about 6'2". One thing that Boogie can do better than most right now is shoot that rock. Yes. But I also think he's an underrated competitor.
Yeah.
When the lights are bright, I've seen him in EYBL, and I've seen him, in the Catholic League. Like the show he put on in that championship
game. 22 points in the first half, it didn't miss.
Like he like you can't teach that type of mentality. I gained a lot of respect for him just from that game alone. Yes. Because he knew he had to put that team on his back, and he did just that. So, that's one thing as a scout we look for, like who's going to we say I have a term that we use in my culture saying the cream always rises to the top.
Yeah.
And he seems to always find a way to shine. Ian Jackson, hell of a motor, hell of an hell of an athlete. I think he needs to work on that mid-range game and work on his wiggle. But he can keep you honest from 3-point range. He has good size for his position. Like if I was a scout right now, I would project him as a 3-and-D guy, quite honestly. But I have to see, what he looks like, when he gets to North Carolina. But both of those guys are hell of a talent. I'm so happy that they're put in New York City. They're bringing the light to New York City as 5-star kids. I think they carry themselves well. And, I'm looking forward to, in particular, to see where Boogie is going next, because I see he took a visit to Indiana.
Yeah.
And, I know UConn wants him. The whole country wants him. So, he has us all on standby to see where he goes next. But I'm sure he'll be successful wherever he goes.
How do you think Mel is going to pan out this year? I know last year he had to, wait his turn and wait for his opportunities. What do you think this year presents for him?
So Mel is one thing about Mel. I love coaching Mel. Like, I just have to say that I love coaching him. His father, I give Scooter a lot of credit because he has my vision. I have his vision for Mel. With Mel, I think he has to mature. He has to continue to mature. I have a thing where I tell Mel all the time, less is more. And I also tell him, he'll laugh if he hears this. I tell him, kiss. Keep it simple, stupid. So less dribbles and be a straight point guard.
Yeah.
That's what I tell him on a regular basis.
I agree. Yeah.
Make sure everybody's happy, because you have a 3-point shot where when it comes to you, you can knock it down. But less dribbling and just being more efficient with your handle, make the right decisions. One thing I have to credit him, his on-ball defense has gotten a lot better, because when he first got to me, he was doing a lot of reaching and what I call fake defense. Now he's literally sitting down and taking on the opposition. But I think my boy is going to be, he's going to shine this year. I think he's ready. By the time he gets out of EYBL, this is my fiance. She calls Mel Wiggles, because that's what he does.
Right.
I think by the time he gets out of EYBL season and he gets into that sophomore year, he'll be ready to take off. And he's grown too. He's 6'1" now.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, he's 6'1" now. So I think he's hungry. I think he was humbled by sitting last year. Sometimes that's a good thing. And I have to give his father credit, because he didn't run from the adversity. He made him go through that adversity, and that adversity makes you stronger and it builds character. So I think you'll see the best out of him this year.
And he didn't jump in the high school transfer portal?
No, he did not. He did not. He's ready to shine.
Right. I remember watching him in 8th grade against Connor and Man, and they were going at him as far as their ability to score. And one thing I remember Mel doing is using himself as a decoy. Like, I was so impressed by that. So while those guys was going to score at him, he was using himself as a decoy to get his big man and his wing player involved. And they were able to win the game. And at that point, I was just so impressed by the young man. And then to see, Tristan Davis, which is man, and Connor go into their freshman years, starting at Jefferson, and then as sophomores get to the city championship. I think that was amazing, man. What can you say about those two guys?
Oh, I love, like, Man is a old school
New York throwback New York.
He's old school, man. Yeah. He's so tough. He could play for me any day, anytime, any night. Like, he's so tough. He's so gritty. He you don't have to tell him to go get a 50-50 ball. He believes every 50-50 ball is his.
Right.
And he doesn't care who's there. Big 6'6", 7 kid could be there. He's going to get it. He's just tough and a hell of a on-ball defender. Like if you don't have a handle, you better just pass that ball away.
Don't play with that. I always say, don't play with that ball around man.
Don't play with that ball with man. Connor, I've coached Connor. I've been around Connor. Connor is just, he has what I call, he's just innately special.
Yes.
He knows he's another wiggler. He knows how to get in and out of positions, and he's played in Bed-Stuy Parks all his life, and he's brought that game to the public school league, and now he's one of the better guards in the New York City and maybe in the state. And hopefully he stays at Jefferson. I'm hearing a lot of people are coming after him, but that's the culture we're in.
That's the nature of the game, right?
That's the nature of the game, man. But he's a bad boy. He's on, both of those guys are on our 16U team that's going to the Peach, New Heights Lightning.
No, that's dope. That's dope, man. I know you had to realize this, right? Nothing moves in New York City without you have something to do with it. Like, I think people really need to understand that, right? Because, you do such a great job of keeping your name spotless and staying behind the scenes, not being too much in everybody videos, like how the show say, right now, everybody.
No shiny suits.
Right. You ain't on the ad libs, you know what I'm saying? So, how have you remained to remain humble, still have the fire that burns inside you to help New York City still grow in the basketball community?
Yeah, well, I am involved with a lot of young men. I'm in touch with a lot of parents. They seek my counsel on a regular basis, and again, it's my job to play it forward. I believe that each one must teach one. So I'm always for people that are worthy, I'm always a phone call away. And people have utilized me, whether it be to get jobs or to get to find out who's recruitable in the city. And, so I have become, one of the go-to guys. I'm not the go-to guy, but I'm definitely in that world. And you are too. You were in the mayor's office last week with me. so we're
humbly.
Yeah, we're cut from the same club. We're sitting at the same table, and it's just our job, I think, as Black men to mentor, to be there for these young men or young women, because there's some young sisters that I've helped out as well.
Yes.
And like you said, I try to do it humbly. Nobody has to know anything. I'm not into the shiny suits. You don't have to know, what I've done for somebody. That person knows and I know, and that's all that matters.
Man, such a class act, man. Such a class act. What do you feel about kids reclassing, pros and cons?
The ends has to, what do you call it? The means has to justify the ends. Or I think I'm saying it wrong. The means has to justify
the ends.
It has to make sense.
Right,
it has to make sense.
Right.
2 and 2 must equal 4. So if a kid, a lot of it all starts from what the vision is. So a lot of parents, they have to be real with the vision. If the vision is to get an athletic scholarship and your son is 6'1", and you see a lot of promise, and he's dedicated to the craft, and you see all signs pointing to the fact that in 4 years he might get an athletic scholarship and might save you some coins, I can't knock it. But if your son is an academic kid, and that's where he's really thriving in basketball, and he's not thriving at basketball, then I don't see where it makes sense. So it really is catered more for basketball kids. If a kid is an academic genius, why would you reclass? Like it doesn't
Right.
make sense, especially if your son is not thriving as a basketball player. So that means you're putting more eggs in the basket with the sport than you are with his mindset or what he could do in his career. Because the thing that I think we miss as Black people is that we can marry the sport to the mind. The sport does not have to stop when the kid stops playing sports. He can continue by doing other things in sports. Like you're showing improving with your telecast right now that you can be a commentator, you can be a sports psychologist, you can be a sports trainer, you can be a coach, you can be an agent. You can. There's so many avenues that I think we missed the ball because we put all our eggs into the fact that we want this kid just to play the sport, and that's where he can be in the sport. No, he can thrive in the sport by doing something else. I'm 5'6". I'm living proof. I'm 5'6", never played in college, but I've been living off of basketball all pretty much my whole adult life.
Facts.
So
Facts.
if I can do it, they can do it.
That's right. That's right. What are your thoughts on the NIL and the transfer portal?
Well, the NIL, I believe I'm happy that dynamic is taking place. I think I'm just sad that guys like that played for the Chris Webber, the Fab Five, and all the people before that were so dynamic and so popular couldn't cash in on the game, and they had to get their stuff behind the scenes. you know um but I think it's necessary for our kids to get compensated. Like, if you in pretty much any profession, you can get compensated for your specialty. These kids are you know generating all types of views now. They have all types of likes. They have all types of followers on social media, and there's a market for that. So last I checked, when we came over here as slaves, we built the country and made it a capitalistic society. So
Facts.
since it's a capitalistic society, why is it that we can't capitalize off of it? And the earlier the better. The only thing is that we have to make sure that we provide the necessary infrastructure for our kids to know how to utilize the money and not be exploited, and save the money, invest the money. So I think that's the next step that we have to teach our youth. But I'm all for these kids capitalizing off of their success. I see Angel Reese of LSU. Overnight she's making all types of money because of her popularity, and not just her popularity but her success on the court. And she's not only the only one capitalizing. That championship game when she played against Iowa was, the TV views from that game broke all types of records. So the only thing they're saying is the residual effect of her getting money, but we're not really talking about the people behind the scenes that are making the money off of her. So by all means, our children need to be making money off the sport that they put so much blood, sweat, and tears in.
Especially when the NCAA is a nonprofit organization.
That part. Non-profit.
Right, right. What are your thoughts on New York City as a whole? Like, what do you think of New York City basketball as a whole? Everyone talks about New York City being down, and they're always creating these crazy myths about New York City basketball. What are your thoughts on New York City basketball and the standing where it's at right now?
I think New York City basketball, one, I think we're always going to be a target because we're New York City. So if we drop off a little bit, it's exaggerated. But in fairness, we also are the kings of the hype. So a lot of people hate that hype. They envy that hype, and I get it. But at the current state, I think it could be better, but I don't think it's as bad as people have stated that it is. I think there's a lot of good basketball players. I do believe the coaching needs to get a lot better. And I think the coach.
I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot.
Yeah. I think we have way more trainers than we have coaches.
Ooh,
And
hold
I think,
on. Definitely gonna hit you again. Yo, that right there, that part.
right.
That part right there.
Right, right,
Yes,
right.
yes,
Yeah, I think we have way more trainers than we have coaches, and we have a lot of trainers that what I call bubblegum trainers. They're doing a lot of they're training these kids with a lot of drills that they won't even use in games. And a lot of these kids look like robots when they're in the game. I think
yep.
our kids need to play basketball more. When we grew up, we played 3-on-3 in the park, 4-on-4, and that taught us how to read, react, and just play basketball. Um, and the coaching, like I said, the coaching I think needs to get a lot better. I remember at the meeting we were at the other day, Julius Allen, he made a good point. We need to, our coaches need to learn how to run a practice. Um, a practice like a professor comes with a plan for the day. Well, a coach needs to come with a plan for the day. You can't freestyle. Like I'm coaching EYBL right now for 2 weeks. I have a whole I have this is actually the pad. I have all these notes breaking down film for the next 2 weeks of every player or pretty much every team that we're going to play in our pool. Like these are the things that go along with coaching. It's not just waking up on YouTube one day and finding out about two plays and calling yourself a coach. So I think we need to the standard for coaching needs to be raised here in New York City.
Nah, that's so real. Uh, like I told you before earlier, I rarely hand out my questions, right? Because
Yeah.
I know people think, I be freestyling up here and just coming off the top of the head. And I told you I was in the, music industry. The only freestyle I know that come off the top of the head was Supernatural, right?
Mm,
Right. So we're not doing that.
right.
We have a plan, and I think being a good coach, you have a plan. Right.
Yes.
I remember
Yes.
my coach Harstein used to have these cards that he have his plays on, and I just knew back then. In order to be a good coach, you definitely have to have a plan and be structured and organized.
Or you're going to get embarrassed.
That part. That
Especially when
part.
you're playing against coaching against better coaches.
And not for nothing, the other night I was in the Catholic school and public school huddles. And the one thing I was impressed about with the Catholic school coaches, they were saying, we're going with the hot hand. I know everybody else can score, but if whoever got the hot hand, and it's Josh right now. So we're doubling down for Josh. We're making sure that he's getting the ball because he has the hot hand. And everyone agreed. Like that's the ticket.
Well, I was sitting on that. I was standing on that baseline of that game with uh what team do I coach? I coached the ninth grade EYBL New Heights Lightning team. But I was standing on the baseline with Rob Phelps,
Yes.
and we said the same thing. We were saying they right now they need to go with what's the kid's name?
Josh
They
Pasquarelli.
need to give him the ball every time because
Yeah.
he made a three, then I think he made a one dribble pull up,
Ooh,
and he was just he was
tough.
he knew it was time to close the game.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, he
Great
knew.
player. Great
Yeah,
player.
he knew it was time for him to close. I think he was the MVP of the league,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he wanted to show and prove in that game that listen, man, public school, Catholic school, I'm the best player on this court, and that's what he did.
For sure. For sure. And I thought the public school, they went away from going down to Trey Shepard, Anthony Isaac. That was their strengths.
Right, right. Yeah, Shep
So
was working. Shep was
yeah,
working.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So we're definitely on the same page. How did you come up with the name of this book right here? Like,
Free game.
we got $1 million worth of game. We got all of this game, right? People give like, how did you come up with free game?
I mean, I know you've been around, man. We've been around the OGs that used to tell us, yo, let me put you up on some game,
That's
and
right. That's right.
yeah, so and it also comes from my background, 5% Nation background, where we always say that our duty is to teach the civilized, to teach our duty is to teach the uncivilized and teach them to be civilized. And you know, our duty is also to give jewels and lessons in everything we do, and to walk our walk and talk our talk. So that's what free game is. Like it is experiences that I've been in life, and I'm being vulnerable in the book. I'm really opening up to people that probably never knew some of the errors that I've made, but I'm fine with that because I've turned those weaknesses into strengths. And I want to freely give up myself, um, give my mindset over to my people so they can navigate this system. This system is meant to trip our parents and make them unsuccessful in this journey. And I don't want to see that happen. So that's why one of the most important chapters I wrote about was careers in sports, because there are so many young brothers that will play this game that will never play in the NBA, yet that was their dream. Yet we can, again, if they can get into other walks of life when it comes to sports, I think they can fulfill their dream other ways. But what is sad that I've seen over the years, especially being in the urban community in Brooklyn, Bronx, is to see so many legends that have played and they're walking around and they're not doing well mentally, or you could tell that they're in a place that they shouldn't be at, in their lives. So we want to avert that. There's ways to avert that. There's ways to be proactive with our community. And I wanted to give these parents free game, because the parents are the ones that really are the ones that need to teach the youth what they need to know. You could tell a tree by the fruit that it bears. And our parents are the ones that need to, the mother is the first teacher. So they need to know so they can impart this wisdom and this knowledge and this understanding to the youth and to their children.
How can we come together, right, as men, and show kids that there's other sides to basketball? I think if they don't see it, it's hard to relate, right? You can tell them, but if they see it and be like, here's a trainer, here's a statistician, here's someone that's a scout, here's someone that's, is keep the scorekeeper, or he's
Right.
the announcer, or trainer, not talking about trained basketball, someone who actually take care of part of the health,
Right.
right? And mental health people in the background. There's so many different things that they can, and positions that they can see. That they could be a part of if they only see it. Like we
Right.
run these basketball camps, we run these games, but I think within these games, we can highlight certain people and be like, and show them there's the other side of basketball, right? You have the people on the court, but then here's the other side that makes the game run. Because without the other side, the game doesn't go anywhere.
Correct. You know, we need to just expose our young men or young women to those people, and invite them to some of these forums or some of these panels so they can hear from them themselves. One of the things that was made my life made me an impact when I was a scout was that I started Brooklyn Bridge as a scout. So I was around these young men and taking them to the games. I literally brought at that time Coach Atkinson. He was the head coach of the Nets. I brought him to the community, and he did a free clinic. I brought Rondé Hollis Jefferson, and he did a free camp for me. I brought athletic trainers to 113 Park, where they actually did talk to the kids about what their role is with the Nets. So I just think that we don't do a good job as professionals of reaching back, as Harriet Tubman did, back to the plantation and bringing our people along. We tend to, think as individuals when we get a job or get into a certain profession, we tend to take the money and run.
It's
And
mine, it's mine, it's mine.
yeah, it's
right?
mine, it's mine, it's mine. But I'm not brought up like that. I'm taught to always have some type of pulse with my community and with my people, and do my best with my resources to reach back.
Yeah, we do some of the similar things here in the Breville Coliseum, far as bringing trainers and coaches and letting kids see that side of basketball as well. So I think
Absolutely.
that's dope, man.
Yep.
Man, if you could change one thing about your basketball journey, what would it be and why?
You know what? The one thing I think I would do is when I was younger, I remember playing at Morehouse, and the coach came and told me to come to the tryout. We were in intramurals, and the assistant coach, he told me to come, but I was not ready because mentally I was into that bottle. I was I couldn't leave that bottle alone. So I remember actually going to the tryout, but I wasn't I probably got twisted the night before and showed up to the tryout, and that was it. So I would if I could, I probably would get sober a lot earlier, and
Mm,
it might have changed some of the trajectory of being a player a little longer. But I don't look back. I always say forward ever, backward never. So here I am.
say that again, one more time, one more time.
Forward ever, backward never.
Ooh, that's a gem to live by, man. That's a
Yes,
gem to
sir.
live by. Well, now we're gonna get into our
Top five. Top five.
all right. You know what that is. Top five part of the show. This could be man, people always say it's the hardest part of the show, but we're gonna get right into it. All right. Top five players you coached against.
Okay, I have mine ready. Um, I say number one was Blake Griffin.
Mm.
Yeah,
Woo.
we as a Loughlin coach, I coached against him at the Slam Dunk to the Beach in Delaware.
Wow.
I would say Kevin Love, who I coached against in the Adidas tournament in Vegas.
Wow.
Yep, I would say Brandon Jennings, who was on that same team. I think that was SoCal, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And shout out to Brandon Jennings. I love you on Gilbert's Arena show. That's one of my favorite podcasts to watch.
Right,
You know,
right, right.
yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
And then I'm going to bring it back to the city. When I was coaching at Bishop Loughlin, these two, I'm gonna give you two young men that used to give me nightmares and had me eating Haagen-Dazs ice cream all night, because that was how I treated myself since I didn't drink anymore.
Right.
um, Kemba Walker and Irv Walker, the Walkers.
Whoa.
Yeah, they were hard to coach against, man. They were hard to coach against, and Irv was a sniper, used to shoot it from Myrtle Avenue in Brooklyn, and Kimba was different in high school, So that's my top five.
Another guy who I'm looking to get on here is Momo Jones, right?
Woo! Yes,
Like the people are, it's just certain names that especially when you talk about Kimber, people don't realize Momo Jones had that same trajectory. But I would love to hear his story and how things
yeah,
turned out for him. Yeah,
absolutely.
for sure. All right, top five players you saw play.
Number one, LeBron James. That's neither here nor there. I was blessed to be part of the time where he was on our team when we brought him to IS8.
I heard about that game.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was packed.
It was
Crazy.
packed. It was packed. Standing room only. Broke a lot of fire hazards, and but it was a wonderful experience. And before that, there was a photo shoot, the Slam magazine photo shoot that Sebastian and LeBron did together,
Yeah.
and Tiny hollered at LeBron and said, "Why don't you play with us in IS8?" And we set that up. Again, somebody I brought up, Kenny Anderson. I thought he was phenomenal. And I wanted to be just like him. I put a part in my middle of my head. He was a bad boy. I will also say Jamal Mashburn. I it's self-explanatory how I told you what I saw him do.
Facts.
Again, Blake Griffin, and then Stephon Marbury. I was actually at Syracuse basketball camp when he was younger than me. I think he's only 2 years younger than me. And he came up to our division and dominated. And literally, he came and dominated. Steph was a bad boy. And
Yeah,
I
he
think
definitely was.
he had to be about 12 years old at that time.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, he was doing things that, I was like, I was in awe. I was like, yo, he's a bad boy. And they treated us really well at Syracuse when when we hung around with him.
Oh, we got the royal treatment too up at the Empire State Games when we played with Kenny Anderson. Well, actually, I was in an open team. He was in a high school team, and we was had our way with Market Street. But just to say, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right,
Wink,
right.
wink.
Hey, but let me tell you too. I'm gonna give you this picture: Tiny Morton, Kenny Anderson, battling up in Glen Falls.
Mm, mm.
Tough, tough, tough.
Okay, Tiny.
And Malloy had that they said they had that North Carolina press. No one in the city could press Tiny. No one.
Okay, Dwayne Morton, Tiny.
For sure. He was the reason why, one of the biggest reasons why we won the city championship that year.
Cool.
That's right. Yeah, facts, man. Young Steph played like a grown man.
Yep.
Jumping like 90 feet off the ground.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Before we get you out of here, I would like to know top 5 players in New York City. Only 5. Can't bring no one off the bench. Who are
Okay. All right, 5. I'm going with, well, first, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yes.
Like there's no
the
way of getting around that. Kareem
right.
Abdul-Jabbar. I'm gonna go with, and I'm dealing I'm Kenny Anderson.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Stephon Marbury.
3 good ones right off the bat.
I'm gonna go Chris Mullin.
Ooh, for sure. Lucky lefty.
I'm gonna go Chris Mullin. And I'm probably biased, but I'm gonna give my man Rod Strickland a shout out, man.
Rod Strickland. Let me tell you something, man. Rod Strickland came up on the scene in 1984 and he changed everything. 1983, 84. Everyone had us winning the city championship. It was either between us and Boys High. And then Rod Strickland came and changed everything. And they beat boys and girls, and they beat Jackson, and it was just like, oh man, who is this guy, man?
Right.
Man, I was hoping we could get there, so just to watch him still play against each other. But I did get to see them play against each other in the Will J Classic, and always get at Rod about this. My guy winning MVP in that game. So, but man, so many memories and seeing it from the beginning, and him be a legit superstar in the NBA without getting the acknowledgement that he should have gotten.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure, man. Hey, listen, man, I'm going to let you go on and enjoy the rest of your Father's Day, man. I'd like to thank you for joining me on this Father's Day special, man.
Yes, sir.
And listen, brother, for all the things you've done for the city and to represent your family the way you did, man, I don't think we could be no other better guest for tonight, man. So I'm glad I was able to get you on.
Yes,
we
sir.
appreciate you and thank you for all the things that you have done for New York City and keep doing, man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it, man. Happy Father's Day, and happy Father's Day to all the brothers out there.
No doubt. For everybody, make sure you spread the word and subscribe. It costs you nothing. You know, I'd like to give everybody a shout out that came on the show. Appreciate you. Love you. Thank you for supporting what we do. Basketball heads. Here, my guy, Khalid Gray. Appreciate you, brother.
Peace. Thank you.
No doubt.
All right.
Wow, man. Listen, when we talk about New York City basketball, you got to mention my guy, Khalid Gray. You can't even mention New York City basketball without bringing up his name and all the things and all the people he has worked with and helped and the foundation he has built for himself to call himself a New York City legend. That's still doing it. He's out here still in these streets making moves. Well, never let, those things that you're dealing with that may keep you back, hold you back. If you need help, seek change. And that's what he did. And man, after that, he took off like a rocket. For all my young kids out there, never give up on your dreams. And look, we have to do it as men and women to help the people in our community and never give up on them and keep building those relationships that's going to help us empower the youth. To everybody out there in Basketball Heads land, I am your host, Glenn Pooh Harding, and you've been watching Basketball Heads Live, the podcast on NYC Basketball Network, because we are the official home for New York City basketball. Peace.